I'm sure all of you guys will, when no one's around, we've like dropped something or like a little thing, right? So today, I'm so nervous. Today I'm going to explain how our garbage is hurting our environment. Okay, so first I'm going to talk how garbage is hurting our ocean. Our society nowadays is very dependent on plastic, like Starbucks, and then Mr. Kirkland soda. We all have our plastics everywhere, which most of it ends up in the ocean. Like in the article Raising Awareness for Plastic Waste by Betty Wasner, she says about 300 million tons of plastic is produced globally each year, and an estimated 7 million tons end up in the sea each year. There it breaks down into small and smaller fragments over the years. So it turns into very small particles, and it ends up floating on top of the ocean for many years. And this is where I want to show the video to demonstrate how it looks like. Okay, here it goes. So if you notice, it contains more plastic in there than it has more of like trash of plankton actually when he describes it. And then it starts. That's all the plastic on top, and then the plastic bags, by the sun they become just trash and they just float in there, which becomes danger to the animals. Okay, so then our garbage that we are not paying attention to is rapidly invading the beauty of our oceans. As a result, our sea animals are getting involved in our garbage and it's causing them to get in danger. According to Kimberly, she states plastic reaches our waters, whether it be plastic bags or drifting fish net. It possesses a threat to the animals that depend on the ocean for food. To a sea turtle, a floating plastic bag looks like a jellyfish. Small hand pieces of plastic from which plastic products are made from look like fish eggs to seabirds. Drifting nets entangle birds, fish, and mammals, making it difficult, if not possible, to move or eat, which puts our marine life in serious danger. So we are really hurting our animals in our oceans, and they're starting, some like get tangled and they're dying, and they're just there floating, and it's really sad. And then I have a couple of pictures. I don't know how to use that. This is good. Okay. Okay, so well, this one is how it looks in the ocean, in the like where Asia's around. So that's where most of the U.S. trash kind of swirls. And then this is a bird, and has all the bottle caps. He died, and has all the bottle caps in his stomach. So they all pretty much eat the plastic, thinking it's food. And then this is a turtle who became deformed from the plastic ring around his body. Okay. So next, I want to talk about how garbage is hurting our atmosphere. Because of vast amounts of waste, we have created environments that surrounded our garbage in one place, which is a landfill. From all the waste stored in these landfills, methane gas is produced in these areas, which contribute to our air contamination. In the article, Landfill Methane Energy Recovery explains how landfill methane is produced when organic materials such as yard waste, household waste, food waste, and paper are decomposed by bacteria under these conditions. So all that tends to mix together in the landfill, and then it starts sinking into our system. The gas is then released into the atmosphere and ends up contaminating our oxygen, and by ultimately contaminating the oxygen, it creates larger problems to our society. If larger amounts of garbage are created, more landfills will be created in the future. If more landfills are exposed to our community, negative consequences can arise. So last, I would like to explain how garbage is hurting our fresh water system. In the article, Pollution, How It Affects Water, explains how the main source of freshwater pollution can attribute to the discharge of untreated waste, dumping of effluent. Water is being contaminated because all the waste that sinks down in our groundwater system ends up contaminating the water. Also in the article, Contamination by Dumps and Landfills states that dumps and landfills are a threat to water supplies when water percolates through waste, picking up a variety of substances such as metals, minerals, organic chemicals, bacteria, viruses, explosions, flammables, and other toxic materials, which can be extremely dangerous to our health. If we get exposed to this through our water system, garbage can contaminate all the water. So the waste contaminates our water, and I have to explain now that creating large amounts of waste is not decomposing them. I have to explain that if we keep creating large amounts of waste and not decomposing them the right way, our environment is for a negative future. Above all, our garbage is a serious situation that should be well taken care of because it's hurting our environment by hurting the ocean or atmosphere and water system. As you can see, this issue is not going to go away, but if we pick after ourselves, little by little it can be solved.
All right, Noor, what did you think?
Well, for the introduction, I thought she didn't have a very sufficient attention device. I liked the way she threw the garbage. It was a very nice visual to get our attention. She stated her thesis statement clearly, but she didn't outline her points before she started in the body. It was very organized. She had good. She had quotes, and her transitions were clear. She did define terms like the landslides. The visual aids were very effective, but she did waste a little time trying to set them up. Maybe she could have spoken with a little more energy, and I felt she was reading too much, and she didn't give us enough eye contact. Overall, I thought it was very organized, and she had everything, all the information needed. She just felt she was just reading a textbook instead of actually presenting something she knew about.
Okay. Yeah, remember we talked about the relational dimension of messages, and this is one of those situations where I think you've got good content in the speech, but you're not doing anything to convince us that you want us to care about this, that you're involved in this. We're going to work on this more when we get to the next speech where presentation is a bigger issue. But it really sounds like you're doing a lot of reading, you're kind of, don't always sound familiar with what you're saying. You ought to be able to talk to us about this subject without anything in your hands and just say, look, here's what I know. I don't mind your having the quotes and the statistics in your hand, but most of the time it ought to be, here's what's going on, here's what I think, here's how we talk about these things, and you ought to be talking to us, and you're kind of looking down and reading and struggling with the words, and it really takes us out of the speech. We're going to, like I said, we'll work more on that next time. On the organizational things that we were focusing on this time, I like the attention device or tossing the garbage on the ground. I thought that worked pretty well identifying what your topic is. I think you needed a smoother transition into the body of the speech, and part of that is, again, one of those things that needs just a little bit of practice. I think if you'd run through it a few more times and thought about how you were relating to the audience, it would have been smoother. I did hear a preview, but it was not a very thorough preview. It was kind of skimpy, as a matter of fact. But the material is pretty well organized by the topics that you had. You know, you've got the sea pollution, the air pollution, and the groundwater pollution that you're talking about. All of your visuals are in that first section. So you don't have anything on the air pollution issue or anything on the groundwater contamination, and I think that that's a little bit problematic because it makes it feel like those things are just piggybacking on what you've got, and they're not really the focus of the speech. The focus of your speech is the pollution that's taking place in the oceans, and if that's the case, then you needed to adjust the organization of your speech a little bit, cut those things out, and find a different way to organize the information that you're presenting on the ocean pollution. You know, sort of shift your thesis a little bit. You did an excellent job citing material. There's a lot of information in the speech. Presenting it is a little bit problematic, like I said, because you have to do a lot of reading. There was one section at the end where it sounded like you were reading something, and it sounded to me like it was a quote, but it wasn't being attributed. You were presenting it as if it was you talking, but then you had to correct yourself a little bit on it. So it just seems strange. You even, I think, started repeating the first sentence again. So it's not really that you're talking to us. I think you're quoting somebody, and you need to make sure that you attribute that. The visuals that you had, I think, were pretty good. The first time people go through this process using the PowerPoint and the screen, it gets a little complicated. You end up having to walk back and forth quite a bit, and that's one of those things that you can't really practice. And it's just, it slows down the presentation. It takes us out of it a bit more, and it just needs more polish on it. Like I said, and then we already talked about the delivery issues. All right, so it's pretty well organized, good research. I like the visuals in the one section. They needed to be distributed a little bit more throughout the speech. All right, thank you.